Hello, and welcome to the Beyond Wellness podcast. My name is Rose, and I'm here with the Mercedes Ann. How are you doing, Mercedes?
Doing amazing. How are you, Rose?
Very good. So today we are kind of starting off with the concept that we're always on a path of self-discovery, and we're constantly analyzing and looking at who we are, where we want to go, all these kind of things. And we don't really know how far we've come or kind of what we've accomplished until we take a chance to stop and take a look back and be like, holy smokes, look at how much work I've done. Right. And so I found that, since we've met, maybe a little bit of info on us, Mercedes and I met when? Like 5 years ago?
Ought to be 5 years ago
Something
now.
like that.
Yeah.
So we were doing our theta healing training together. Mercedes is a energy healer, just like I am. And so we kind of met through there. We were partnered up and got to work on some of the deep stuff together, right? And that was kind of weird.
Yeah. We were partnered up for some really deep stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But I think that goes to show it's interesting how, if you're in the right zone and you've got the right vibe going on and you're open to discovering, who you could be or who you want to become, even if you don't know who that is, that it doesn't matter who you're with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point for sure.
Yeah. So you've been through a lot of change in your short few years. We've got a birthday coming up, so Mercedes is turning 30 pretty quick. Extremely exciting and embarrassing.
And it's so scary at the same time. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna be like a responsible adult or something.
Yeah, it sneaks up on you, eh?
So weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little about you. Tell us a little bit about your story and kind of, the discoveries that you've made. When do you think your journey kind of started?
Yeah. I mean, like you talk about like the wake up journey,
kind of figuring out who you are, letting your guard down, becoming your true self. Like, I think that's what people don't know. Where to
I kind of call it like the what doth life moment. There was this show that I watched when I was younger. It was called Xavier the Renegade Angel, and the first episode that's what it was called. It was called What Doth Life, and it was so absurd, and I always remembered it as being so absurd and weird. But
yeah,
my initial wake up, I mean, as a child, I was like very different, and like I think love you, Mom, but I don't think my mom knew what to do with me because I would always be coming out saying stuff to her, and she'd be like, "What on earth are you saying?" And then I think a lot of people who are like that as a child end up shutting it down because just like no one really gets you, and you kind of get attacked and blah 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 blah. So you just kind of shut that down. But so of course I did the drinking and I did the partying and I did the whatever teen stuff that you do. And then one day I was moving into my career finally, and I failed one of the exams that I was supposed to pass. And like I thought it was like my divine right to like go into this career, but apparently the universe wanted me to pause, and so it really sent me into like quite a dark downward spiral. And so I started going like, okay, all this stuff that I'm doing, like the drinking, the partying, whatever, it's not working for me anymore. Like it's not solving my problem. My problem is I need to pass this exam, and I need to do something different. So I recognized that I needed to do something different, and I went and I got a reading with a psychic. And after the reading, it was like I could tell that what she was saying was like, oh crap. And I was like, that lady like was not a good lady. And I don't know what it was in me that knew that. I left and I was crying, and she was freaked out, like she couldn't understand like why it didn't work on me. Her like usual thing, like I'm coming at this like understanding it later, right? At the time I didn't understand it at all. And then through a weird series of events, there was like this business card on my coffee table from my friend who was my roommate for a couple of months. And so I called the number, and this guy was an intuitive life coach. And then he introduced me. He's like, when he went there, I was like, he's like, you need to come to this meditation. Like, I don't know why, but you need to come. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like, my life's not going amazing right now. So I'll go to this meditation.
Let's
with
try
you,
to fix this.
strange man. So I went meditation, and oh my gosh, like so much stuff opened up. So much was channeled to me in that meditation that I was like, wow, like this is the truth.
Oh.
This is something, like this is real. And I knew it just somewhere inside me. It wasn't like there was this flag going, that's real. And I went home after that, and I had a shower because I felt dirty when I got home. Like, I felt so dirty, and I was like, I was in the shower for like an hour, and I was like, yeah. So I turned around. Basically, what happened was like, this is kind of actually emotional for me to talk about again.
Yes,
I'm
bringing.
pausing. I'm like, whoa, like this is okay. There's still some stuff there.
And
So, anyways, I was in the shower, and I
what?
felt like a presence behind me, and I turned around, and there was this bright white light, and it was like I could only be described as like an angel, and I had not seen anything like that before. Maybe in my childhood, but it was blocked from me. Like,
Frame.
for me, it was like I was age 14 and up. That was it. That was all my memory. So I just like crumpled to my knees, and I cried and cried and cried and cried. Like, I let out so much grief.
Oh.
And that was the initial wake up. That was the initial, like, okay, I have to change. I have to get a grip. I have to start becoming responsible. This is on me. And then that was like October. And then
I heard.
obviously I still had some shenanigans to get out of my system. So I kept partying, doing this stuff, but it was totally different. Like, I was like not involved in it anymore. I knew it was going to end. And then that January 1st, I woke up and I was like, okay, that's it. Like, done.
Yeah.
No more alcohol, no more nothing. I'm just going to be like, I'm going to start living different, because obviously what I was doing before
Neat.
wasn't working. And then that March, I ended up passing the exam and then going into my career, and things started like going for me in a good way. I didn't really go into like the energy healing aspect
Right.
of it until the last like maybe 2-3 years, or kind of when we met doing the theta stuff. That was sort of like dipping my toe into it, but I've definitely learned a lot since then.
So why do you think, I mean, the significance of the shower and opening up and just like starting to let go, like that must have been difficult. Like a lot of people would get scared of that and shut down at that point and be like, nope, I'm not going here. Stop doing it. And then they would just continue drinking. You know what I mean? Like try to numb it and make it go away. Cause I mean, nobody wants to hurt like that. So
Yeah.
what was it, or what piece of advice would you give to someone who is in that moment that's feeling really scared about what they're experiencing and what they're feeling, and like, you know, they don't know what's going to happen, and everybody gets so scared of what the future is going to hold because they don't know what it's going to be, right?
Well, I think you really just have to have courage. Like, you really just have to lean into it. And it's about what you want. Like, what do you want? Do you want to continue suffering? Do you want, like, because that's all available to you.
Right.
It's all, like, you're in it right now. You're doing it. Like, and
To stay and make it not
it's
sustain.
easy. Exactly. So my question is, what do you want? If you want that, then you can have it. You can have it all day long. But my question, I guess I will answer your question with a question. It would be like, what if everything bad in your life that was ever going to happen to you has already happened? What if it's all happened already and everything on the other side is actually really good?
Yeah.
Because that's how I've learned how to discern good energy from negative energy. Negative energy is essentially just fear. It's an illusion. It's our biggest illusion,
Hey, Dad.
because everything good feels light and happy and kind and cheerful and joyful.
Right.
And everything else that's not is fear, and it's an illusion. So you have to be able to see past that.
So I find a lot of people who I see, they don't even know what they want. And so, you know, it's almost like figuring out your don't wants, like what don't you want to do anymore, right?
Yeah.
And so like using you as an example, you noticed that drinking and doing all of that partying wasn't fulfilling you anymore. You weren't finding anything out of it. So like, did you find that one of your don't wants was like, I don't want to drink because it will help me support my want in being more happy and free? And like, how did removing that partying make the difference for you, do you find?
I just started to be happier, I think.
Yeah.
And like I saw all the people around me, and like, because one of the things about me was like my upbringing, I wasn't necessarily supported in all the ways that I needed to be. So I seeked out mentors constantly, constantly. I just always had it in me, like, to seek out people who were living lives of where I thought maybe I wanted to go. So I always had this innate ability to see the future through other people, maybe, like, and how they were making their decisions. So I wanted to live the life of people who had a good life,
Right.
and were happy and fulfilled. And so then I was like, well, what do they do? You know, do they journal? Do they
Warren and
go to the beach? Like, I don't know, like, what do they do? And I was always just curious about that. So, like, I think I've just always been maybe a curious person in that way. I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yeah. 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 Did you find that the mentors that you were seeking out, were they people like in real life that you could connect with? Or did you find other, like, there's so many different books and other podcasts you can listen to, and, you can kind of reach out and learn a little bit about everybody anywhere nowadays, right?
Totally.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I think with famous people or people that are well known, it's kind of hard to know what the authentic truth is, because anyone can go online and be like, oh yeah, I journal every day. Like, really? Okay, sure.
Yeah.
But like I surrounded myself with people in my regular life. I always found people in my I've always had a skill of networking and like being able to communicate and relate to anyone on whatever level they're on.
Awesome.
I've always, it's weird. Like, I'll read something in a magazine that'll be like this little fun fact, and then I'll meet someone on an airplane and be like, hey, like, did you know about this little fun fact? And they'll be like, well, actually, I run a farm and blah, 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 and I can tell you about that. And be like, wow, that's so cool.
Tell me
everything. Like, educate me. And then I'll meet two new people that, like, I could tell them about the farming thing. And so I always came across information that would be valuable later.
So be open to meeting new people and, talking about that.
Exactly.
Some people, it's hard with everybody being behind phones and computers these days, right? It's almost like you feel like you can't just talk to a random stranger. You'd be the crazy one who's walking around, right? But
I've always been the crazy one walking around, Rose. I've always been against the grain, like the rebel, the whatever. So I've become comfortable with it over time. I've not really, I've dealt with a lot of the, like, how people see me. Obviously, my feelings get hurt. That happens. Sure, I'm not immune to it, but for the most part, I really don't care. I really don't care what people think about me. I know in my heart what my intention is for how I want to show up in this world, and what I want to do for people and how I want to help people.
Yeah.
So I know in my heart what's authentic. So if someone's like, wanting to insult me or whatever, I'm like, I check it against my heart and I'm like, nah, it doesn't match. So, okay, carry on. That's yours.
yeah, that's a whole other kind of side of it is, choosing what your reality is and what is important to you, and if those opinions are important or not. Because if they're not in alignment with your want, then why acknowledge them? Why even?
Exactly.
Right. But I think that's where so many people get caught up too, is we're taught to worry about what other people think, right? We're taught to worry about what they care about, and, altering ourselves, especially in today's culture sometimes, is like altering our opinions and our true selves in order to make other people happy, to suit what makes them feel more comfortable.
Well, my question is, have you ever made other people happy that way?
Well, that's what they want. So there's no way, if they can't even make themselves happy, how are you supposed to do it? So you might as well worry about yourself, right?
They'll always just want more from you.
Right. Very cool. No, that's the truth. That's the truth. So where you're at now, how do you feel? Like, what's that? Your journey's been started 5, 6, 7 years ago. How do you feel you've changed? Where do you feel that you are? Like, if there is one piece of advice that you'd give to someone who's just starting or trying to figure it out, where would they start?
I would start at the childhood.
And fix it.
You have to remember who you were as a child.
What if you can't? So many of us don't, because we've just shut it down. Like, we can get into talking about core beliefs and all that kind of stuff, but you can't even start there. It's almost like you've got to start with just acknowledging the fact that, hey, stuff was shitty and I didn't like it.
Shitty.
But like, do I need to hold it? Do I need like, does this have to be how I started and who I am for the rest of my life? Or am I capable of making those choices to make those changes, right?
Exactly. I think it's going to be different for each person because each person had a different journey. So it's hard to be like, have a blanket statement about that. But I think a lot of times there has to be some kind of catalyst. Like for me, the catalyst was failing the exam.
Right.
Like it shook me to my core. And I was like, wow, I'm not doing stuff right. But I had to be honest with myself. And then going back to the childhood, that's a journey because it hurts so much because you were a little child and you had people around you that were full grown adults. And it's like you have to see the reality of that.
Yeah.
Who were the adults that were around you actually? Like, what's the reality of that? And you have to really, I don't know. I know it's hard to say, but it's like you have to get out of your emotions. So however it is that you can get out of your emotions and view it, you know, I've said this so many times over the past weekend. So I'm like, I'm annoyed at myself to say it again, but it's like you have to view it from the balcony of your mind because we all have a higher self that's always viewing us. And the higher self doesn't get up into their emotions. The higher self views it from the position of love from Creator.
Right.
So it's like if you can get into that higher perspective and view it as an observer and become the person that watches everything and become the watcher and the observer of yourself and your own thoughts and your own mind, you will have all the answers. Nothing will be mysterious to you. And then there are also the times where if you're stuck, it's okay to be stuck. It's okay to be confused. Just acknowledge you're stuck and confused. And then the next step will appear to you. And sometimes that, you know, having your community and maybe seeing an energy healer or someone like you or someone like, you know, a number of our friends or even a massage therapist or even a physiotherapist, you never know where the right answer might drop in, but you have to, you know, lay your guard down and be really vulnerable. I mean, that's like, you have to be honest and vulnerable. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere because you're just pretending. Anything other than that is like a mask that you're wearing.
Right.
And it's not going to get you to the truth.
Just being honest and open with yourself.
Yeah. And sometimes it's painful.
Yes.
And that's okay. But, you know, it's like always that, where was that saying? It's like, this too shall pass.
Yeah. So
You will always get over it. You will always get over it. And I found like my rebound rate over time for getting over it.
it's getting faster.
It's much faster.
Yeah.
Some things like that would have happened in the past, I would have taken months of stewing, and then would I have kept it on my heart like a shiny little badge of pain? Or, you know, now I'm much more willing to be like, ooh, ouch, okay, see you later, you know, thank you for showing me that that's something that's a wound that's still there.
Now, when you say, you know, show up with love, right, from the balcony, now that translates a little bit into non-judgment too, doesn't it? Like,
yeah.
You can look back at the fact that the adults who were involved in raising you, they didn't know any better. So showing them some compassion and love coming from that place of non-judgment. Maybe they learned, maybe they didn't, but that's their job, not yours, right?
Exactly.
And then even for yourself.
Yeah. And like from a soul perspective, like they did that for you. And it must have been hard for them to do.
Yeah.
In their heart and their soul, you know, to harm someone, let's say,
What
on
is that?
purpose or by accident.
What is that story about the little angel that comes down that wants to... There's a story.
Ooh.
I'm going to put it in the link. I'm going to find out what it is, but it's about a little angel who's up in heaven and wants to come to earth to feel an emotion, to feel forgiveness or something along those lines.
Ooh.
And so then there's another angel that says, I'll come down and I will treat you so horribly that you will forgive me, but you'll like have to actually help me and show me compassion because I'm going to be working so hard at playing this role. I'm not going to remember who I am. I'm not going to remember that I agreed to come and do this, and neither are you. So it's just showing that, like, you know, if you get into it, we are all here to help each other learn lessons, and
Exactly.
right. But yeah,
There's more to it, right? So then when you can get out of your emotions and you can get out of like the hurt and the pain and the suffering and the this and the that, whatever else, it's like you can really see the truth of it all. And like even I've taken like Joe Dispenza's course where he talks about like how long are you gonna hold that for? Like, and he'll talk about how some people are like sitting there crying and they're like, oh, but you don't know what's happened to me. And it's like, yeah, but that happened 25 years ago.
you're still living your
You've been 30 years ago, someone was mean to me.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
They don't even know.
okay.
You're the one that's holding on to it. They have no idea what they did.
They're running amok doing whatever they're doing. Like, they're
Somebody
scared.
else probably, right?
Like, I mean, whatever. But it's like, as long as you want to hold that wound and that, you know, badge of hurt, then okay. Like, we'll all let you do that from the soul perspective because we're like, you're learning. And we think everyone thinks that's beautiful.
Yeah. Support everybody the best we can.
Yeah.
Yes, and trying to.
And I think though, like seeing it all as fact, like this is the fact. Here's the fact. And I recently went back into a memory that I had no idea that I had of an initial harm that happened to me when I was a child, and it was like extremely serious. But when I was looking at it, I was looking at it from a higher perspective, like I was viewing it. And I saw all the reality of it and where everything was, what everyone was thinking at the time. And I saw all the gifts for me that came out of it and all the strength that I ended up having because of this situation. And, you know, it was difficult to see. It's still difficult to see and know that these certain things happened to me, but I saw it as fact. So it was like, okay, yeah, my anger towards this person was justified because they wronged me, and that was not okay. That was not cool.
Correct.
But carrying it for 20 years also wasn't justified.
Not necessary.
So I was ready to let that go, but I saw it only when I had the courage to see it.
That's always a difficult one, is taking a look at something that's not been kind that's happened to you, and then searching and finding the good things that came from it. It's like, yeah, that's but that's where ultimately I feel that all of us need to get to is,
Yeah.
thank you for this lesson. Like I find that with like with my cancer, right?
Oh,
I was holding
yeah.
myself so responsible. I didn't even know why. And I was like, why did I get this? How come this happened to me? Like, you know, searching and trying to cancel myself out and so on and so forth. And like 5 years later, I'm finding there's nothing wrong with me. I've tried to cancel my bossiness and my awesomeness and all of the things. And I've worked so hard to do that. Now it's almost like I'm undoing everything I tried to do to fix myself that was never broken in the first place. You know, when I say to people, like, you know, I had cancer, and they're like, oh, like you say the bad word, right? And
The C word, yeah.
right. But I mean, like, I would not be who I am, and I would not have healed from everything I was doing and had been done to me and so on and so forth if I wasn't able to take a step back and be like, you know, there was good
Yeah.
from that. I wouldn't change it.
Yeah, you started a little freaking health clinic
Things, right? Like just
and a
everything.
podcast.
That's right. Yeah, we're growing. We're growing. Things are happening. But yeah, if you can, I wonder if that's a good place to start for people, is just what if you were to climb onto your balcony like you suggested and take a look at the bad thing, but from somebody else's point of view. Remove the emotion from it and be like, you know, if this were my best friend and I could see what they were doing to themselves, what would I say to them? Write it down and then read it to yourself. I mean, that's going to hurt, but at the same time, it may show to you how much you're carrying on that you don't need to.
Exactly.
So much on our shoulders. It's like talking about forgiveness for other people. What about forgiveness for self? Right? Forgiveness
Yep.
to what you've done to yourself and what you've been holding on to that you didn't really need to. And I find that that's probably a big portion of making the decision to change is first off holding yourself accountable for it, but also
That's it.
forgiving yourself that you didn't know any better until now anyway,
Yep.
right?
And loving yourself, because no one else in this world is going to do that for you.
No.
Regardless of if you have a partner, a sister, a mother, a brother, no one is going to love you more than you can love yourself.
That's just true.
So you have to do it.
Well,
or not, you know,
but then
catch you in the next life, right? Like, do it next time then, you
Right.
know. I'm not here to judge anyone.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're not ready, that's cool. But
there, right?
you will do it eventually.
It's that place of judgment is coming from that place of judgment for self and for everything that's
Mhm.
happening around you. And I find that's always interesting when you're trying to catch yourself, hey? Trying to catch yourself and like giving yourself shit for something that doesn't
Man,
even matter in the long run. And then someone close to you, Dave is constantly like just watching. I'm like, why didn't you stop me? Why didn't you say, hey, you're going off on the same tangent over and over again? Can't you see what you're doing? I'm like, obviously not, because I can't stop myself. Can you please next time just like poke me?
but how much more valuable is it in the lesson that you catch yourself?
It's probably way more more valuable.
Way
I'm just
more.
so I've got it.
Oh yeah,
I
I get, but I get you. But like, I know that one of my mentors one time, literally, just told me the answer. Just told me the answer and was like, "There you go. There's the answer." And I was like,
Weird.
"Like I just got the answer. Nice." And like an hour later, I was like, "What did they say?" And that was a big thing. So I was like, "Oh, okay, that's a good lesson of like, nah, earn it,
Very old.
earn that badge or whatever it is that you want to call it, but earn the knowledge."
Right.
That's the other thing too. Like, gain as much knowledge as you possibly can. Talk to people who are smarter than you. I'm like, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room.
No.
I want to be the dumbest. I want to go around and be like, wow, like, what can I learn from you? Like, you're doing this. How do you do that? Like, I want to know, and I want to support that person in that journey too. Like, if I see someone who's doing really great energy work, I'm like, I'm sending people to them. I want people to experience what they're doing and their gifts in this world. And I think we all bring a really beautiful gift to this world. We're all here for something.
Yeah.
And the more you can open up that inside yourself, it's like the more you're on your path. Like, people are so confused about, how do I know when I'm on my path? Well, are you enjoying yourself?
I think
Is it fun? Like,
whole thing, like your entire life is your path. Your entire
Yeah, like-
your journey. It's not like you start one day and then you actually end it. Like, I think there's some books out there. It's like, I've become enlightened. It's like you're ignoring every sign that you're receiving because nobody's ever enlightened until you like float up and become of
Grandpa or Buddha or
Right.
one of these ascended masters.
Right.
Yeah. And you would know at that time. It's like,
but there'd be no
I don't know.
judgment and just love, and you probably wouldn't even notice. You'd be just like, I'm going, see you later.
Exactly. You'd
Yeah.
be different. So I definitely feel like it's not as confusing as we've all been led to believe. I think there are a lot of things in the world that make it very, very confusing. And it's not as confusing as we would be led to believe. But it's okay to be confused. But just
Almost-
notice that you are.
It's almost like people expect that there's rules to this. It's like for you to be a spiritual person, you have to follow A, B, C, and D, and you have to do it
Yeah.
daily. Yeah, you got to do the journal, and you got to meditate, you got to do this, that, and the
Journal.
other thing. It's like anybody I truly feel that being spiritual just means that you're actually trying to open your eyes and do better. You're trying to talk to those people. You're trying to find the teachers. You're looking at yourself. Like,
Mhm.
spirituality is not things that you do. It's self exploration, right? Like,
I'm spiritual.
most people I know that are spiritual hate meditation. It's the hardest thing for them to do, and that's
Right.
that's what I strive for, right?
Mhm.
And I actually
Oh,
meditate and not fall asleep and disconnect, right?
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like I'm the most spiritual when I'm washing my dishes and I'm just in this little flow and I'm like, connected in with myself. I'm
But that.
spiritual when I'm, getting the snow off my car. Like, I'm just living.
Just when you're present.
Yeah, like, and it can be anything. Like, people think meditation has to be this, like,
Fucking
sitting there for 10 hours, and that's not really it.
sure.
In my opinion and what I've learned, it's if there is a goal to meditation, it's that you're present all the time. It's that you're always in that state of mind. So whether that's going for a walk for some people are in meditation when they're playing a guitar and they're in there doing their music. And some people are in meditation when they're driving. Some people are like, it's different for every single person. So it's like you have to find where your flow state is, where you connect with God in your way, because that's the magic. That's where the magic happens.
I love that. That's awesome. I don't think anybody could have said it any better than that. John Mercedes.
I'm just kicking it, man.
No, but that's true. Like, I really feel that will hit hard for some people. That you feel most connected when you're just doing the daily things because you're actually paying attention to who you are and being present in your life. And I think a lot of people look at life as something that's happening to you rather than a gift that we're supposed to be experiencing. Right?
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, you wake up every day and I mean, like, I think I kind of want to go back to, like, in the beginning of this conversation where you're saying that you've noticed a lot of change in me since we first met. I think what I want to say to that is, like, the person that you met wasn't me.
Not anymore. Yeah.
No, like, that was all of the crap I was pretending to be.
Right.
And the image and the mask and the whatever. And so now when you see me, you're like, wow, she's totally different. Like, yeah, I'm actually being myself. I'm just being authentic.
Right.
And, like, the more I peel these old layers away, these old masks, these old things, well, the more I become in that flow, in that oneness with creation. And you think about, like, I thought that's one thing that really put it in perspective for me, where the guy was like, if you could have $1 billion or whatever amount of money, let's say $1 million, you're going to have $1 million. But in exchange for that $1 million, you're not going to wake up tomorrow. It's like,
would it be worth it?
It wouldn't be worth it, because the value of your one day on the planet is more than any amount of money. So then what is really important to you?
Right.
Is it carrying on with your masks and your hurts and your pains, or is it living the life that you came here to live and to fulfill?
Okay.
Because you decided before you came here
what you're going to do, which direction you're going to try to go in. At least it's your choice to actually make that happen, right?
Yeah. We always decide, I believe, from my understanding, we always decide on a couple of outcomes of everything. And we're like, okay, I could, I'll leave it to my human self to decide.
Choose your own adventure books. I used to love those books.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I feel it's like that. But I think there are certain things that we put in our path that we can't avoid.
Right.
And so it's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to avoid who you are, or do you want to be who you are?
Very true.
So that becomes the path, I feel. I mean, it's just a path of discovery. And once you start to see it, like how we were talking in the TikTok live the other day, where it's like, if you knew you were going to live to be 500 years old, how would you treat your body? How would you treat your life?
You
would see it. You would see it so differently, right? And even, let's say you don't make it to 500. What if you make it to 200? That's, like, huge. It's like you would view your life more as a journey, I think. But I think because we stop it at 80, we're like, well, I'll just do my best and try and enjoy the end of my life and go on cruises. Like, what the hell? That's insane.
Well, even putting into perspective, even if you only do make it to 80, like, you're 30, I just turned 40. Look at how much has happened in each of our individual lives in that short amount of time. You still got 40 and 50 years to go. Like, yeah. You could quadruple what you've done and make it all positive and have a good time. Right?
Exactly. And, like, people won't go back to school. They'll be like, well, I don't want to go back. Go freaking back to school. Yeah. What's going to make you happy? Sitting around, like, laying on the couch watching reruns of everybody loves Raymond, or
Right.
or like
Hating your job
or
forever,
hating it, like hating your life every day you wake up. Like that sucks.
right?
I wouldn't do
because,
that.
I don't know. We started Wellington when I was 30, 37, 38 years old.
Yeah,
Just coming out of nowhere. Was it easy?
there you go.
Oh no. But is it better than going to the same old every day where I was depressed and not having a good time and all the things? It's
Definitely.
like, no, I take discomfort and the unknown over sadness,
Yeah,
I would think.
and I think that's something to get really comfortable with is the unknown.
Just
If you
think
want to
that will be
grow,
okay, right? You don't have to know what's going to happen in order to understand that it's going to be okay.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it kind of goes back to like earlier where it's like, what if everything bad that was going to happen to you already happened and you survived it all, and everything in the unknown is actually good, and you're just resisting all the good and all the love for yourself.
Yeah. No, I think that should be everybody's mantra. What if it's already happened? If it's finished,
And
it's done.
And I think give yourself permission too to be different. Like even the stuff we're talking about now, this is just my understanding and my knowledge right in this moment
Fair.
today. And in a week, I might be like, oh, I can't believe I said that because now I understand this to be differently. But I'll give myself permission to be okay with having said what I said now
Right.
because I give myself permission to grow into something else. And
Right.
I'm always, I give myself that permission slip to change. And this is like where I think maybe just as a society, what I see with like, I don't know, I don't want to necessarily hit on these hot topics, but like cancel culture and like canceling people for stuff.
Yeah.
Like, really? You're not going to allow that person to grow, that soul to grow? Like
Feeling
there are some
Well, that's
things that
such
are
bull-
really nasty. Like I'm not going to argue that for sure.
Correct.
But also like we have to, as a society, be comfortable with being where we're at and allowing everyone else to grow too.
supporting in that growth, right? That's where, but like, again, climbing up on the balcony and looking down with love and non-judgment for everybody who is making those day-to-day decisions and still not sure which
Mhm.
direction they're going in, right?
Well, yeah, and like I never agreed to be perfect.
I don't think anybody tried to. No,
So,
no.
like,
they
you
just
know what I mean?
literally
Like
tried to.
they never agreed to be perfect.
Right.
So why are we all judging them
Right.
at a perfect standard? And what is that even?
Yeah.
Is that what like King Charles is doing? He's the perfect guy. That's the ideal. Like, you know, what is your definition of perfect? Like to me, it's people who are out there being real and being their authentic self. That's perfect to me.
And acknowledging mistakes, right?
Yep.
Acknowledging imperfection.
yeah.
Perfect
Like
means, right?
I've screwed up. I've screwed up lots of times and I'm probably gonna do it again.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be perfect. And in that, like that's where I love myself the most because I'm like, yeah, that's just me being me.
Right.
So I hope everyone who is listening can like really see themselves for who they are because who you are is the most beautiful thing. Like you look at a newborn baby coming into this world and it's like, holy crap. Like, and you were once that. And you once were
Right.
in, you know, the universe going, wow, when I'm that newborn baby, woo! And you know, you love yourself so much through all the toddler. Yeah, I feel like I'm rambling, but
No, I was
think
trying to, and it's funny that you bring it up because I was actually trying to think the other day of what it would be like to be a baby being born. And like, I was like, do you think you remember things? Or do you think the implants in the veil start right away where you come in and you're like, oh, this is what it feels like to breathe. And this is what it feels like to cry. And what is this, like, why am I crying? What is this feeling? Or do you think they remember and then slowly forget? And then I was trying to think of what it was like coming in as like myself. I'm like, can I remember that far? Like, would that be something that I could practice and get into?
I think so. I
That's
think
what
once
I'm
you
there.
really just like give yourself permission to let go of all the walls and in your mind and open up all the doors,
Right.
you really understand like that we are amazing as humans. We're amazing. And there's so much that's been shut off for us, from us, by society, by our own will, by whatever. Doesn't really matter what it is, but the fact is that it's been shut off. It's yeah, it is a daunting thing to look at it and go, oh my God, this is so much. But you just start at the first step. And it's like someone told me, Chinese medicine practitioner told me, like it takes 1,000 days to heal the kidneys, to completely clear the kidneys and whatever.
Years.
And it's like, it's a long time. And in my mind, I was like, yeah, and if I start tomorrow, it's 1,001.
Right.
So
Perspective on it all.
how long do we want to put things off for? Because you will do it eventually.
Fair.
When do you want to do it is up to you.
It's very true. So then how would someone go about, like, do you suggest just talking to anybody? Just like start reaching out and start asking the questions. Like, I need help. Like you said, go see your physiotherapy, go see your massage therapist. I mean, the one that I've learned mostly is like when you start taking care of the physical self, that's where you like, you don't notice that you carry all of these emotions and choices and beliefs and stuff within your physical self. Like, do you think just start getting out there and start with the self-care thing? Just
I would say, yeah, along those lines. I would first start with, what am I doing now? What am I doing now, right now? This is a Jordan Peterson question, actually. What am I doing right now? What am I doing wrong right now that I could change and that I would change? And man, if you sit with that for a minute, you will see something. And so that's where you start.
that's great.
And then if that leads you to go, that could be body related. Oh, my knee's been hurting for the last 2 years. Maybe I should go to the doctor. Like, it's like, what am I doing wrong right now? What am I doing it? Maybe wrong is not the correct word. What am I doing as a disservice to myself right now?
Yeah. No, you worded it well. And I think people will word that question well for themselves too. They'll find how it flows in their mind and what makes them feel good and what makes them not when it comes to that. Because sometimes we'll ask that question and we'll feel very uncomfortable, but that's because it's triggering something, because it's time to change it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think another part to it also would be like, don't put anyone on a pedestal. Nobody is more important to God than anyone else. We're all equals. And we all need to be able to make these mistakes. We all need to be able to heal. We all need to be able to do everything. So regardless of if you're a famous celebrity or you're a homeless person on the street, like, we all have the same right to heal.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you, Mercedes. I think that was an amazing talk and a great way to end that topic. So if anybody's looking to reach out to Mercedes, she does do online clearings. Yeah.
I do. Yeah. I do distance energy healing sessions. Basically we hop on Zoom or whatever, just like this. And I tune in and start channeling whatever it is that needs to come through for you, messages, whatever. And then usually like energy will start coming out of my hands, and I'll just like, I don't know if it's like through the quantum field or whatever, like I kind of just place my hands wherever I'm guided to. And I just do whatever I'm guided to do. In trying to get you, whoever it is in front of me, on their highest path.
It's cool. So that might be a good place to start if you don't know where your questions lie, right? So your website is themercedesann.com, and you are the Mercedes Ann on social media, Instagram, TikTok. And then Mercedes is also part of the Cosmic Adults podcast.
I am 50% of the podcast. The Cosmic Adults podcast.
So where can they find your podcast too?
My podcast is called the Cosmic Adults. We're on all the major streaming platforms. I do my intuitive chat stuff, and Ian, he was my partner in adulting. I hate that word, but in
trying to adult.
He's an astrologer, and he's an amazing healer as well. Although he's not well known for that, but yeah, he's definitely a channel, and I'm sure he will be coming out with bigger and more amazing things in the future. But yeah, our Cosmic Adults podcast, we also do like astrology predictions and things like that. So if you're looking for answers, I think right now Pluto going into Aquarius is a big event, and Saturn going into Pisces. So we have episodes on big astrological events
Okay.
pertaining to the signs.
I think I'll head over and listen to that one. Joe was saying something about Saturn and Pisces. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and we go through each sign, and like I bring my intuitive insight to it as well as he does the astrology for it. So yeah, it's pretty big stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for being on the show with me today. And
It
I
was
just had
so fun, Rose. Thank you for having me.
no problem. And I just have one question for you. What does wellness mean to you?
To me, wellness, I feel wellness means putting yourself above all else. And not in a selfish way, in a loving way. Put yourself above everything else.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.